They call it Thanksgiving. But why in the world would you celebrate a massacre of your own people? Or either, like for example, Monica, you'll have black people. You'll see a posting of the Buffalo Soldiers, for example, online, and you'll see black people commenting, "Great, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service." What in the hell are you thanking them for a service for killing their own brothers and sisters? That's what they had the Buffalo Soldiers doing. They were killing other black people, other indigenous people, for a land that once it was won, that they themselves were not even allowed to purchase. Many of the Buffalo Soldiers themselves were hung. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Many of the Buffalo Soldiers were hung after they were the most successful unit in helping to clear America for the white man settlement, fighting against our own self, fighting against other indigenous people. For in actuality, all indigenous people have only one major enemy, and that is imperialism, capitalism, fascism. And that doesn't make a difference whether you're in Africa or whether you're in the United States. And the black people here tell me, "Oh, Africans don't like me. Africans don't like me. They sold us in this." But that's because you're miseducated. There was very few tribes that participated in the black slave trade, and those Africans that are in Africa now are waiting for us to come home so that we can connect to real resources and have a life of freedom once again. But instead,
what do you think about the FBA movement, where if the FBAs are feeling like they've said, okay, we are a foundational Black American and we don't have any connection to Africa? Do you think that movement is somewhat like working against like that whole ideal of us being able to go back to Africa?
It's absolutely foolishness. And the reason why I say it's foolishness, FDA, what does that stand for?
It's Tariq Nasheed's movement called Foundational Black Americans. Well, he says it's a lineage, but he's the one who started that whole.
That's you tell Tariq I said it's foolishness, and the reason why that's foolishness is because it's ignorance. Because there is no such thing as any culture of people anywhere that did not originate from the initial migration out of Akibulan. They have this thing going on now where people are talking about, well, no, there was black people in America when we built the mounds, and there is no archaeological facts that substantiates life before 1.5 million years ago, which started out of Akibulan, the southern, down below the Nile Valley. So now people want to say that there were actual people who were in the Americas or in Australia or in Europe or whatever. Black people, indigenous people that are indigenous to that. In other words, they didn't come there. They were they were there from the beginning. No place on earth had human beings prior to the time that the Great Migration took place and Africa migrated people from people from Africa migrated all over the world. And that's scientific fact. So these people that are into all this conjecture, as far as I'm concerned, are very unlearned people, and they're making conjectures based upon their want to be native of a particular area. You can still be native because the African people were still the first people that were in those areas, but it still needs to be everybody needs to understand that those people came initially from Akibulan.
So what about
There's
the
no
thought of an ethnogenesis? That we had an ethnogenesis here in America, and that's what separates us from Africa.
ethnogenesis. What do you mean?
That
Explain that.
as a people that we became our own ethnicity because of the fact that we were brought over here, we admixed with the slave owners and the Indians or whatever,
Oh,
the white people and the
that's
Asians or whatever.
absolutely that's absolutely a fact. You know, we're not native African. We're not native. Native means born in. We're not native African. We're not native European either. We're not native Australian. So yes, there are various different cultures all around the world that have settled there, that have undergone generations and generations of transformation. But they all were initially indigenous people that settled there through the Great Migration out of Africa. And and
Go ahead.
and don't take my word for that. Consult with Dr. Diop, Sheikh Anta Diop. Talk with John Henry Clark. Talk with Dr. Ben. Talk with all of our great African scholars, and they will tell you the same thing. You know, the Oshawa Kwesi, he will tell you the same thing when he's talking about the great land of Kemet. So it's only these people again, this later generation that is just coming up now, who don't do their due diligence in studying, and then they move forward with philosophies to confuse the mind. As far as I'm concerned, all of these movements and all of these people that are out there talking about this crap are just unlearned and uneducated people.
So here's another thing is that, okay, so we get into the fact that we begin to separate from Africa. Say a civil war happens. Now, who do we have? Like, okay, in this situation, if it was a civil war against the Chinese, they have China. If it's a civil war against the Israelis, they have Israel. If it's a civil war against every other country, they have their country to back them up. But if there's a civil war against us, we are
nothing.
And every connection that we probably have to Africa that could possibly help us, or
we got it. We got it. The African, if you look at what is going on nationally, and I mean internationally, which again, most of the black people are holding, kissing the white man so tightly that they don't get an opportunity to actually do the due diligence to understand what is going on now in Africa. Right now, Africa, they're begging for black people or so-called African Americans in this diaspora to come home. They're asking, there's an organization, I forget the sister's name now, I wish I could say her name directly. I don't want to bite your name up, but she's the lead. She heads up the African Diaspora Development Institute, African Diaspora Development Institute. And this institute is helping black people that want to repatriate to any country. It's helping them to repatriate, get citizenship, get there, get settled, get land, and to build and grow. I'm talking about in a place where you can have or connect with not only your own motherland, but where you can have wealth. The black people here are penniless. And what I mean by penniless, you say, no, we work, we got money, we got some jobs. All of that is basically the whole American economy right now is living off of credit. They don't have minerals and resources to back the dollar. In another 3 months from now, there's going to be a crash in the United States, that's going to send most of the United States out of work. And then it's going to send the whole country into anarchy. Anybody with good sense would be thinking about getting out of this country as soon as possible. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that I'm doing right now. Is I formed it's called Omabawale Investment Corporation. That's a credit union whereby people can invest in gold, diamond, silver, platinum, solid minerals overseas. And we're also forming Omabawale village settlements in Burkina Faso, in Tanzania, and in other countries as well as we continue to grow. I'm in the process of putting that plan together now and submitting to those governments so that we'll have some place to go once things get to the point that we're no longer able to stay here.
So have you heard of the recent thing about that they're starting to think about revoking a lot of people's passports?
Absolutely. That if you haven't already gotten your passport, you need to go get it today. Go apply for it today, because you may or may not be able to get it in a month from now. Or if you don't be able to get it, if you can't, I'm not going to say they'll cut it off, but it'll be difficult to get, and you may have to wait months to receive it. So understand what is really going on here. The United States is being isolated as a country from other countries in the world. They've chosen to isolate themselves from other countries in the world. The G7 is, what is that? Germany, Spain, Germany, Japan, the United States.
Now, President Trump.
The United States and several other countries. They call them the G7. The G7 are no longer in power any longer. Now the BRICS are in power, headed up by China.
What's it? Brazil, Russia, India, China.
Yeah, that's what BRICS.
What's the other? What's the S? BRICS S. South Africa, or?
I'm not sure. I know.
Brazil,
Korea.
Russia, India, China, and S. Whoever S is. But I wanted to show this really quick about the passport situation, so that people are aware of it.
Sure.
Check this out, because I think that people are just being rocked to sleep with this whole FBA thing.
They have no idea of what's getting ready to happen.
Right, let's go.
At the front of Windsor Castle as he picks up his second state visit with the royal family. Let's take a look at your other top DC daily headlines for September 17. The first interest rate cut of the year is expected to happen today. The Federal Reserve's announcement today expected to be a quarter-point rate cut off the current rate of 4.25% to 4.5%. Now, inflation is now at its highest point of the year at 2.9%. So the rate cut is not in response to falling inflation, but because the economy's growth seems to be slowing with a weak job creation report. A new Republican bill may make it easier for the federal government to revoke or refuse a passport to U.S. citizens who voice opinions opposing the U.S. government or the White House stance on issues like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The bill, introduced by Republican Florida lawmaker Brian Mast, is being debated on Capitol Hill today. But after civil rights groups pointed out the bill gives Marco Rubio and the State Department unilateral authority to revoke passports from U.S. citizens, goes against the First Amendment right of freedom of speech and the 14th Amendment's guarantee of due process, the passport section has been removed for now. The passport section focuses on anyone convicted of assisting terrorist groups, but also anyone considered to be providing material support, something advocates say could be in the form of protest, boycotts, or protected speech. Now, Mast has amended the bill to remove the passport provision, but that still needs committee approval before it's removed.
Child. Oh.
So now, did you hear what she said? Protest, boycotts, or protected speech. If black people once that are sitting back right now, most of them, and they're watching the deportation of the Spanish people out of the country, when they should be out there in mass numbers, but instead they're sitting back, slave mentality. They're sitting back, hugged up with white folks, talking about, well, you know, somebody's gonna, like Gil Scott Heron said, and he said somebody's gonna always come to save America at the last minute. No, that's not what's happening right now. Nobody's coming to save America at the last minute. America is like the Titanic with the bow of the ship already underwater. And instead of the rats jumping off of the ship and trying to swim, they're staying on the ship, wanting to go down with the captain.